Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I'm the Crypto Crow. I am here with Navjeet Dhaliwal. Is that how you pronounce it? That can almost be a song.
Yeah.
CEO of Iagon, which I'm sure many of you know. Welcome. We've been trying to get this going for a little while, and I know I'm kind of a diva. I'm a little difficult to pin down, and you're a busy guy, so we're finally here.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Jason. I appreciate your time.
So listen, man, obviously, I don't even know if you're familiar with me much. I've been in crypto for a while. I'm kind of an old guy. It's funny because I looked at my old original videos from 2017 and I'm like, holy shit, I'm turning gray as Gandalf since I've been in crypto. This is almost like being
Yeah.
a president for 6 years,
Yeah.
7 years. But Iagon has been really kicking up a lot. And I noticed too, and it kind of caught me by surprise, but it's up like 50 something percent just in the last week. What the hell's going on, man? Why is this pumping like out of nowhere and it's just starting to take off? What is happening? First of all, I guess the best thing to do, I mean, obviously I understand I am an IAG holder, just so everybody knows, but this is not a sponsored video or anything. I've just been kind of sending messages and like, hey, let's do something. So we finally got it worked out. But explain a little bit about what IAG is and what it's about, so that just people that aren't familiar with the project at all, maybe they're trying to jump the Solana boat because I'm watching the price go down a little bit on that. Might be freaking some people out. What is IAG?
So yeah, thanks for the brief summary. But the IIG is basically, AI-driven shared storage in a compute economy. So what that means is it's kind of like Airbnb for storage and compute. So you have just like Airbnb, where you're looking for an apartment to rent, you looking for different sizes, rooms, different placement. Maybe you want some amenities that certain amenities that other places won't have. So just like that, you as a user, and in this cloud service, you as a user look for, performance, availability, trustability, different locations of where you want to store your data. And it's kind of like connecting the users with the kind of nodes that are providing the idle capacities. So we have two sides. We have the users that are wanting to, let's say, store their data or run tasks using computing power. And then you have the node operators that are providing their idle capacities like storage and compute. And that's why we call it a shared storage and compute economy, because we're connecting the two basically parties together. And how we do that is unique. What we're doing is something called machine learning, which we're learning the behavior of resource providers, which are providing their idle capacities. We're learning the behavior in different ways, like performance, like availability, like trust. And that combination of different variables, we give them a reputation score. And according to the reputation score, we match them up with the user specific needs. And this could be very useful for example, Web2 enterprises that want to be, for example, GDPR compliant. If people don't know what GDPR compliance is, for example, the main premise of GDPR is that files cannot be transferred outside the EU. So we're able to geolocate data within the EU borders or any borders you choose. For example, it could be Norway, it could be the US, whatever compliance needs we provide one-click compliance in that sense. Uh, hmm. I see where you're getting at. Yeah. I mean, there's industry specific. So Web 2 there's a few things that they want to, obviously they're interested in. They're interested in security, privacy, and the main thing is profit margins. How can they benefit from this? And profit margins, how we benefit, let's say, the people that are providing the idle capacities or whoever's providing the storage compute, we reward them in IAG tokens. And also, you have the users paying their subscriptions, and 90% of the subscription fees, also go to the node operators. So there's two sides in terms of how they're earning from this reward mechanism. For Web2 enterprises, what's most important, again, security, privacy, and profit margin, bottom line profit margin, and how they can benefit from this kind of utility. And we've received a lot of interest in this type of solution. And we've seen a lot of Web2 interests, surprisingly, that are looking at this type of solution to benefit their business model. And we've been talking actually to businesses for a long time about this. It's gotten to a certain point now that we've announced a pilot, announcement, as people like to call it, that we are going to be working with a pilot that is a Fortune 500 company. And it's just not the only one that we're in discussion with. We've been talking to multiple of Web2 enterprises since last year and also 3 years ago.
What is that? Can you say what that company does? Like, what I'm trying to figure out, what is obviously there's a lot of stuff that's been teased all over Twitter, and like the world is starting to hate your CTO for being like this like super tease. But can you say anything to give an idea as to, okay, this is real world stuff that Iagon's going to cater to, and they're getting real genuine interest from companies that do X. Like, it's one thing to say, well, we're capable of XYZ, but like what does that mean exactly? Like, who's actually looking to utilize this tech to grow their business?
Yeah. So without, again, like saying too much, because if I say too much, then it kind of
you would just become the hero of Iagon across the world. There's nothing wrong with that.
But I also breach a lot of NDAs, which I'm not allowed to do, right? And we don't want to bust. This is kind of like an opportunity that doesn't come often, so we're being very careful with it. Unfortunately, that the people have been kind of urging it because there's a lot of excitement around the community. I think that it's genuine excitement, and I think they have a right to be excited because there's a misconception that that Web2 enterprises don't want to come into Web3 or aren't interested in these types of solutions. There's a lot of interest in these types of solutions, especially like I named those three that in terms of security, compliance, and profit margins. They want to look at those three focal points, and those are the three focal points that we've received a lot of interest for. I can't be specific in terms of the industry. I can't give you that, Jason, sorry, but I'm trying to be as concrete as I can be, which is very vague, and that's all.
So maybe don't say the company, maybe just like what their biggest competitor does. Okay, so obviously I'm not getting any of that out of you, but okay, so realistically, what would be one of the biggest companies out there, just generally speaking? What would be one of the biggest companies out there that would benefit realistically from Iagon and what you guys offer?
Okay. And I'm going to read a random name because it's not associated with the announcement, so people don't get excited for no reason. So I just want to put it out there. Just an example. For example, a company like that would say Netflix would benefit from this. There's a lot of other companies in the healthcare industry that would benefit from this, especially when it comes to compliance and patient privacy, because also sovereign data, meaning that you fully control your own data. There's no middleman that controls the data. How the architecture of the technology is built is a way that it's fully compliant in that sense. You fully control your data when you're storing it on through Iagon or using the node operators, because the data is sharded, data is encrypted, and only you are able to retrieve that data, which is really helpful for legal firms, healthcare industry, and also, for example, in Netflix, it would help in terms of driving down the cost, in terms of cost effectiveness.
Not only that, but I know that, so like, even if I'm having issues with my internet connectivity, right, for whatever reason, I've learned that Netflix is more reliable than anything. Like, I know that I can watch Netflix before I can watch Amazon Prime, for example. And I know that's also because they invested early on in so many servers, globally, that you're generally pulling from a much more localized server than most of these other, because they have like their data centers that just stream out. Maybe they have a handful. And so it makes sense that you would say something like Netflix just off the cuff, because technically this is almost like, is this more like a peer-to-peer kind of encrypted storage sharing system? So effectively they, like if it, let's just say a company like Netflix were to use the tech, they would effectively be able to store the videos that might be popular in a given market throughout the Iagon miners. Is that how that would work?
Yeah. So if we're speaking about miners in terms of nodes, yes. And also we could use, for example, when our Network Explorer comes out, we have kind of an edge-to-edge network where you have caching locally. We used to call it the Beehive network, basically, where you have a beehive, which has high performance, high availability, and you have the small worker bees, which are the normal storage operators. And basically, you can cache data locally as to the closest point of interaction, and the bees can work around to make sure that data is available for that customer.
See, a guy I know, he goes by Batman on Twitter. We've been just chatting for years now, and he's super cool dude. But I know he's a huge Iagon guy. Like he told me like his infrastructure for being like an Iagon miner, and I'm like, dude, are you insane? Like I don't know if I know. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yes, I know. He's a big supporter of Iagon.
Big supporter.
He's one of the, I think he holds one of the largest nodes, if not the largest node.
I wouldn't doubt it based off of what he told me. He's damn near got like an Amazon center that's all dedicated to Iagon storage and everything. And, you know, he's trying to explain to me how I could go about doing it myself. I'm like, dude, I'm not doing that. Like, that's beyond power user. Like, that's insane to me. I just want one of my little nodes with the little crow on it that I can set up on my bookshelf. You know what I mean? He's got like an entire data farm. So I find that interesting. But at the same time, when I think about data delivery services like that, wouldn't it make sense? I would almost feel like it would make, like if you got one of these, it would almost make sense that they all followed suit and jumped on board. Otherwise, whoever is getting on board with you first is going to have a huge advantage. And I would almost think that some of their competitors, whoever that might be, would really want to be trying to figure out how to get access to this tech, because that's about the only thing that they would be able to potentially utilize now to even catch up to somebody like a Netflix. So now, man, so when do we announce that Netflix is doing this? I'm kidding. And I'm totally kidding, folks. I have absolutely no idea. So I've tried, believe me, I've been trying for like weeks to get it out since the tweet, just like the rest of you, that nobody's budging. But you know, like when will that announcement come? And you say that you're talking to a lot of different companies, you know, how long, you know what, before I even get further into that, I have a very legitimate question. Number one, why Cardano? And two, based off of the tech that you're building and the Web 2 interest and other interests that you guys are getting as a company, how has Cardano helped facilitate any of that? What hurdles may you had to jump over or resolve? What has been your experience like being a legitimate, you know, company doing this kind of thing? Because I see so much FUD, right? There's so much FUD projected by a lot of competing blockchains. And I'm curious, what about Cardano was the cause for your initial decision? And has that been backed up to date, having built Iagon and doing what you're doing? Like, is this something that you think is going to continue growing and getting better for you? Or explain that to me a little bit.
That's funny you asked that, because I was on Charles' early AMA this morning. I was talking about the same thing, how Cardano has grown, in an organized manner, but in the right direction. So when we first moved from Ethereum to Cardano, one of the biggest things was we were talking about security especially on the token side, on the smart contract side. We were talking about interoperability, and in general also about scaling. So those are the three things that we were talking about internally, and also the reasons why we kind of went over. Not just those, but because of the cost effectiveness as well. At that time, we were paying extraordinary gas fees for Ethereum. So currently, we're able to offer 1 terabyte for 1 year at the lowest rate as $2 a month, right? If we were to do that on Ethereum at that point, you're already kind of doubling your business model. So the business model wouldn't work there. So we switched over to Cardano. And one of the things that we realized, the business model fit really well. The security is unparalleled, is one of the most decentralized blockchains out there, if not the most. And the other part is interruptibility, and hasn't come to fruition until recently, actually. I think there was a recent post by Fluid Token CTO about how Bitcoin could be, for example, Bitcoin users could interact with Cardano without having to install a new wallet, they can interact with Cardano native tokens without having to do anything, which is awesome for a project like us, because that's exactly what we want. We don't want multiple tokens. We don't want multiple bridges, because that creates more points of attack, more points of failure. And this allows
EVM bridges are notorious for being hacked, which always scares me when people talk about, we need more bridges. I'm like, I don't really know if we need all that bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like the Nomad one, for example, we had first-hand experience of the Nomad exploit. We had a bridge from a Nomad to Malkamada to Cardano. And there was a Nomad hack or exploit on their side in August 2022. And that was while we were migrating over to Cardano. So we were making the right decision. And even though we were making the right decision, the kind of the bridge exploited some of the tokens on Ethereum side, not on the Cardano side. And that was kind of a wake-up call for us. Okay, we got a bridge immediately. So we went fully Cardano at that point. That decision was taken right away. And we're like, okay, drop everything on ERC, move fully to Cardano. And the interoperability side is just coming to fruition now, which will also involve EVM chain. So now people from the EVM side, any EVM blockchain, and also Bitcoin can purchase IG tokens and stake them while using the same wallet that they're using without bridging assets. This is kind of awesome for us. This is exactly what we want. And that's another thing, right? We have security, we have interoperability, we have the security, and that's the one, in terms of the scalability. And the scalability is coming to Cardano. They're taking it slowly, but it is coming. And we're very optimistic in the direction that's going, because they have promised, even though they delivered late, they have delivered.
I love that, dude. I love that feedback. I'm curious too, given your business model, how do you think the expansion of Hydra, like, will that effectively further enhance your business model? And like, does that establish a certain value that will then get passed on to potential clients, like some of these big Web 2 companies? Like, does it work that way, or am I just not getting it? And that's okay if I'm not. That's why I'm asking.
For Hydra, actually, we have a good symbiotic relationship, because Hydra, we can actually expand just using Iagon nodes. So we have, for Iagon nodes that are coming out, like the Cyclone that you're working on, the QS Pro version can run a storage node, can run a compute node, and can also run a Cardano node. But what we're trying to do here is create plugins on top of the compute. So once the compute mainnet comes out, what we're going to be doing is having a marketplace for plugins where users can instantly install a Cardano node, instantly install a Hydra head. And that way it's easily scalable in that sense, because now you have multiple nodes for users that don't know tech savvy or aren't tech savvy, and can easily scale the system just by installing a plugin on their node, right?
Dude, okay, so that's kind of insane that you just said. So you're saying that when I get my little Cyclone thing, when am I getting that, by the way? When are those launching? Can you say that, damn it?
Yeah, we can. So that's in about 5 months.
5 months? I gotta wait 5 months?
Yeah. Unfortunately, because this is our first device, and we want to make sure we have the software readiness. We want to have the packaging nicely done. Packaging is important, And also we want to make sure it's shipped nicely and presented nicely in a professional manner. So we want to get it right. And it was more like a Kickstarter sale for the Cyclone. And that's why we have the up to 5 months kind of.
See, I wanna shoot a little video of my little Cyclone going. I'm gonna stick it in the corner of my videos. You're just gonna see my little Cyclone purring away with Iagon. And so basically you're saying that these nodes, so if I had one of these Cyclones, I would effectively be able to run an IAG node, a Cardano node, and then it's like I've got like a marketplace kind of thing where I'm able to pick other shit to run off of my single node. They're going to be that powerful?
Yes, and the first iterations are the QS Pros are very powerful. Yes, they're like mini PCs. Yeah,
and then each one of those nodes could effectively become a Hydra head, correct, further amplifying the TPS of the Cardano blockchain overall.
Yeah.
Are you allowed to say approximately how many like pre-orders you guys have so far?
Yeah, we have around between 30 to 40 pre-orders currently. It's not crazy because
we're gonna have to work on that. People, what the hell are you thinking? I think it's 5 months, right? Because they're like, well, I can either pre-order one now, or I can just wait 5 months until the cost of the unit is already 5x'd at least by that time. So something tells me you're just gonna get blown away by orders at the last minute because people are gonna spend their crypto gains on them.
Yeah, I mean, it's right now we haven't marketed it as much. We have some, can say marketing coming out where we're gonna, like, for example, with you, we're gonna have a kind of a Crow branded Cyclone, and we also want to give 5%. We also want to give 5% profits to people that are promoting this and referring this to other people. So we're gonna have referral codes. So we're gonna try to push it even more. We haven't got there yet because we've been focusing on this pilot currently. So we put a lot of stop onto everything that we're doing, kind of just focusing a lot of the attention on polishing up everything before we launch with the pilot.
Yeah, that's fair, man. I'm just being a smart ass because I'm as impatient as everybody. I see all the comments on Twitter and I'm like, listen, folks, I'm right here with you. Like everything that I see, I posted this thing for questions to ask, like what kind of questions people would ask you if they were sitting in front of you. And I've got some coming. But right now I've just been fulfilling my own greedy curiosities, because I think that overall there is so much happening, and it does kind of explain some of the recent pumps in the price and what's going on. I mean, I went out and bought more. I bought a nice little chunk of them, and I was literally just doing a complete audit of my portfolio today, and because sometimes on the fly you buy a little of this, you buy a little of that, and you forget all about it. At least I still own tokens from 2017 because I just forget shit, right? And and it's just like, man, this is going to be a banger. I really do think this is going to be a banger, and not only that, but I feel like it could be effectively a big flagship project for Cardano as a blockchain, because we see a lot of I think that there's a misconception with the public in a lot of sense, because we see a lot of app ideas kind of come and go on Cardano. And then I feel like we get a lot of these guys like me who are dabblers, right? And they make these announcements like, I'm going to make so much money. I'm going to make this app on Cardano and everybody's going to love it because I'm all in this community. But then they realize that there are complexities associated with building for Cardano because of its security, because of a lot of the different things that you have to deal with. And I think that is even getting lesser and less with Rust and a lot of these new languages that are getting put out that you can build on Cardano with. And there's so much things that are starting to empower more people. But I think prior to now, like you said, a lot of this stuff is kind of starting to hit now. And I think that people are going to start taking interest. But the problem is that we've had so many different attempts to do things, and either they lose interest or it's like hobbyists that are making things look like they're bigger than they are. And on top of that, Cardano hasn't even been really ready for a lot of big mainstream application development until fairly recently. Yeah. So
that's the problem. I think the problem here is that we're stuck in that mindset from 2017 and before. Price goes up, sell, and invest in something else. And I think that's the mindset a lot of crypto investors are thinking of, and it hasn't gone to that point where people are being serious about building products. It's getting there. Don't get me wrong. There's people out there building serious things, and we've seen it this year and last year as well. But there's a lot of people there out there building smoke. And in my opinion, in my honest opinion, I
I
don't know if
totally
that's
agree. I totally agree.
and people have that mentality of just price action, and they're not worried about anything else in terms of the tech or what we talk about that a lot in crypto. The tech behind it, and people just care about the price.
Because so many people are used to that instant gratification where they just throw
Exactly.
some money to a wallet and they wait for it to come back worth 10 times over a week. And it's just not that kind of market now because, and I think that the meme coins made it even worse because now you've got this meme coin lottery of pet rocks that are all based on marketing and misconceptions, misinformation, and just plain old bullshit, really, to me. And like there are some cool ones, some fun ones. We've got a couple on Cardano, but the majority of that mentality just spills over into everything else. And people don't know how to wait for quality now. It's like they want they want a paper pair of shoes that's going to melt away in the rain rather than wait for somebody, a quality cobbler to build a nice leather pair, right? And it's like they don't get it. And that the problem is that mentality continues to spew into the newcomers to the space.
Yes,
so they don't know how to even value quality projects right now. And that is where we need to get.
Yeah, and we need to improve on that. And I think that it's going the right direction. It's getting there slowly. And Cardano's doing a great job at it because the community there is just, opposite of all the other things that are going on the other Web3 ecosystems. And that's why they've gone through up and downs, the prices, and they've still held strong. They believe in the core values. And that's the most important, I think.
I totally agree. I mean, it's definitely a different community altogether. And I feel like because people are really researching things on Cardano, not just price action. Like I would say 90% of the other tokens out there, people just research price action and that's it. And, I'm even working on trying to turn a bit of a corner in terms of like what's going on, what's being built on. 'Cause it's one of the reasons why we're doing this. It's like I want to know, from a CEO's perspective of this, this really big project being built on Cardano, like what's it really like? Like why all the FUD? Why are people, people put this crap out there and then the people that don't know any better just buy it, right? They just assume it's true because it's somebody that they assume is smarter than them. And really it's just a meme coin trader who's like 18 and speaks well on Twitter who, made a little money, built some followers because he told people about the last 5, I'm going with this. It's all bullshit. And it drives me insane. So, oh my God, get him to come off of some of these announcements they keep teasing with. I'm barely hanging on here. Thanks, Boz, for that question. It's not getting answered. Sorry. I'm just scrolling down some of this on Twitter because there's a shit ton of them. But yeah, I'm going to filter through. This is going to be awesome. They're planning on having a service for all Cardano projects to utilize them for storage. Are they still pursuing projects in the medical field? And is cross-chain storage in the plans?
Yeah, so for the medical field, we do have a few, and let's say we've talked to Midnight, so we've been in touch with Midnight. We have something called something called D-Health, I think it's called. I'm not sure the exact word we charge for marketing, but it's basically like a privacy app for journals, patient data, and things like that. And one of the key, let's say, missions of Iagon in the early stage was securing medical data. Me being a health professional is securing patient data, keeping it private and keeping it secure. So we are working with a couple of clinics here in Norway, and we're going to be piloting with them with Midnight as also one of the core technologies there. So we did a kind of MVP at the end of last year with Midnight, and we haven't progressed on that yet, but we're talking with Midnight on that. And what was the second part of the question?
I have to mute myself on and off. That's why anybody watching the first 20 minutes of this, what the hell is Crow doing? The second part is cross-chain storage in the plans.
Yeah, so that's the one I was talking about earlier, where there's a new kind of let's say not invention, a new release basically by one of the CTOs. I think it was Fluid Token CTO, where it's interoperability with one click. You can just use a Bitcoin wallet and interact with Cardano chain right away. They're going to do the same with EVM. So yes, that's in the plans.
Can we build a retro gaming system with Iagon tech and store all games from all old systems on the cloud for everyone to play? Link it with a token to unlock more games and boom, retro ecosystem.
That's a good idea. I mean, but we're doing so much right now. I don't think it's going to be in the primary kind of primary goals at Iagon.
I
But
think you're
maybe in
working on
later,
bigger
later time.
stuff. But
Yeah.
maybe that's something they can work on. They can, be one of the guys
It's
that
exactly. You can build on top of the Iagon. So we have the compute and we have a closed beta right now. There was a hackathon, so you can actually build these dApps if you're interested on top of Iagon.
I just built an application today for the first time. I literally just deployed it before I told you I was like, I'm working on a deployment. Dude, I'm not a programmer. I just used AI to create an application that is a price prediction tool. And I'm going to do a video on it tonight. I'm going to send it out and people can use it. It has sliders. You can slide the total market cap where you want and what the percentage dominance of any token is. And it'll tell you what its price is going to be. I'm like,
That's
I'm
awesome.
brilliant. Thanks, Replit. Will price go up? Thank you. I think it already is. That answer is already prevalent. He's a great interview, very open. So people like you, just so you know.
I guess I try to be nice to people, so I'm not trying to be rude to anyone.
Let's see. They don't care about price movement. How many pilots are expected, and is there a time frame for how long the pilots will run? That's a good question.
Yeah, so the initial pilot will most likely run around 6 months, and then there will be a follow-up pilot with that same company.
What company
It'll
was
be
that?
I love it. I love it. And then the
I
second
gotta
part.
keep trying for the viewers, man. I'm gonna catch you slipping. I'm gonna get the first syllable of it at some point. You better watch yourself.
Yeah, I better watch myself. And the second part is it's in a different direction. So, but also we have working with other pilots as well. We have other businesses like for example, healthcare businesses, and there's other Web2 companies that are interested in doing pilots. We haven't got to that discussion, but once the first Web2 pilot is, announced, I think it'll have a trickle down effect.
I'm curious, and I'm going to have to talk to Batman more about this as well. So I'm going to ask this question with a little bit of a follow-up comment. I'm using my desktop PC for a node, which is still doing okay score-wise. What's the outlook for normal gaming PCs as a node while CPU and GPU sharing unlocks for Windows OS? Is there a way to remain profitable as a normal user and thus helping decentralization? So I think what he's basically asking is like, how can I use my gaming rig to run a node on it while I'm still playing a game, but I'm still playing a role in the decentralization of everything?
Yeah, that's a good question. So ideally, what you want is a node that's separate from all your other activities. But it's not to say you can't run a node. So the node's not like heavy duty. It's not using a lot of memory on your computer. So if you have a really good rig, you could probably do it. But it's not probably the best way to have the best reputation scores. So remember, we're taking different variables into account, like performance, like availability, and things like that. So it could affect your score, but it all depends on the type of rig you have. It could be a very strong rig, and then could be running multiple instances.
Wouldn't these Iagon nodes just automatically have a high reputation rig so long as the internet connectivity was consistent? Like how would that work?
So it really depends on the speed. So we have bandwidth scores, we have read-write scores for the hard drives. We have the uptime scores. So there's definitely different variabilities in terms of the score. So if we take all that into account, so for example, if you're running a laptop PC, it's not going to have the same score as like a high-end PC or data machine, for example.
So obviously your focus is on trying to get some big companies, right, to be kind of like the flagships for the service. But what are some like mom and pop type, obviously we've got AWS, we've got all these other things, right?
Yeah.
What is going to drive the masses to this, or is that even a focus? What would somebody like me who just does a lot of random stuff, like, could I use this as a way to maybe run a multiplayer game server, or what are some of the other maybe like lower end hanging fruit that would be able to benefit from Iagon?
So one is like we have a Dropbox like solution, right? So we have, storage where you can, drop files, share files and things like that. We're improving the kind of interface on that. It's not there as we want it to be in terms of the UX is not as good as we would like it to be. We're improving that. But Dropbox, we also have something called Ledger Flow. Ledger Flow is basically accounting for Web3 consumers. So people that are filing their taxes, receiving invoices and things like that, and maybe want to create a multi-sig. So these kind of things, you can manage all your accounting basically on this Ledger Flow. Later, we'll have taxes there as well. So you can instantly get all your tax returns, tax reports instantly made through Ledger Flow. Why we have this? It's because we believe that these kind of use cases will drive adoption, and these kind of use cases will allow more use of the storage. Because when you're receiving invoices, you're getting data and you're sending data. When you're let's say getting tax reports, you're also creating more data. So this utilizing the storage in a sense, and utilizing the decentralized infrastructure, and showcase that all together.
So given especially when these cyclones come out, you're going to be able to have pretty much any Tom, Dick, and Harry and Jan basically buy one of these units, and they don't necessarily have to be, they don't have to know much of anything about crypto. They could, like, my neighbor told me to buy one. I bought one and plugged it in and now it's working. Is that pretty much how easy it is? And if it is, what if they're just not security savvy? What if they're just on like adult websites all the time and they're just getting their computers flooded with viruses, but they have a Cyclone connected to their home network? How is the Cyclone and what's on it protected from, like, a degenerate or like a meme coin trader?
That's a great question. I mean, it is easy to install, so we want to make it as easy as possible to install. That's why we're creating these tools like Cyclone to help individuals that are non-tech savvy to participate in the decentralized economy, right? How we could protect. So basically, in terms of how the tech functions and on the storage side, is when you send a file through Iagon, you're using your user-side encryption and you're sharding the data, and you're spreading it across to nodes that you select. So a subset of nodes. So let me explain this in an easy and simple manner. We like to use the lake analogy. So it's called a secure lake and a data lake. So in a centralized solution, you have a data lake. You have a lake with a fence around it. So the fence is the encryption, and the lake is the data server, or one central point of attack, right? So if a hacker or exploit or virus, right, jumps over this fence, that person could basically swim in the data and collect as much buckets of water and leak it wherever they want to, right? We have something called secure lake technology, which is the shards are represented by, let's say, multiple mini lakes, which also have a fence around it, but they're completely frozen. So if someone even jumps over the encryption, which is the fence, and they meet a completely frozen lake, so there's no way to penetrate the data, even if they break through that lake or the frozen lake, there's no way to combine the lake. The only person that can do that has the, let's say, private key that has access to that data. So only that person can combine those frozen lakes and liquefy the lake to get access to the data.
Got it. Very cool. So basically, you try to jump over the fence, you break your ass on frozen ice. Do decentralized virtual machines exist on Iagon or Nuvola?
Could you say that again?
Decentralized virtual machines?
the virtual machines exist on Iagon or Nevola?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I understood that question properly.
I think what he's basically saying, like you can use virtual machines to deploy applications and things, and typically those are stored in the cloud. I think what he's saying is there anything like that on Iagon or Nevola yet?
Oh, okay. Iagon, Nevola, I'm not sure, but basically you can run virtual machines on Iagon, so you can run instances through AWS or other kind of software tools if you have it. So definitely, yeah.
You could effectively, I mean, I would assume it'd be pretty easy. If I had one of these units, I would be able to run my own kind of like obviously it's not, but kind of like a RAID array for my own home network. Like, let's say I wanted to store a bunch of movies that I downloaded, a bunch of music and stuff like that. Could I do dual purpose the node to do that?
You could. It's not meant for that, but you could do that. And also at the same time, that's a good point, because even if you decide at a later point, hey, I don't want to stop, I don't want to use this node anymore, I don't want to, run any Iagon nodes anymore, you can always use it as a NAS device, similar to Synology. So you could always have, run it as a normal kind of NAS bay at your house. So it can be used either way. So we don't want to I think the other companies have kind of, I forgot the company name, but they've kind of blocked it off where you can only use it as a node. We don't want to do that. If the user has a multi-purpose, so if they want to use it for different things, that's fine. It's possible, but your score might be affected because you're utilizing the same kind of computing power and the same machine, right?
This question I actually find pretty interesting. I mean, in a way, you kind of answered it already. In the sense that, you've been explaining how, as Cardano continues to improve and develop new elements to its chain, it ultimately affects you in a positive way. The question is, how much of the Cardano blockchain are you actually using for Iagon? So I guess, effectively, what are some of the fine points of Cardano as a layer one that is empowering you to achieve more for this kind of a business model?
Yeah. So there's two main points, which is cost effectiveness, and the other one is, security, right? So it's fully decentralized in Cardano with the governance coming out soon. It's already come out, but it's not implemented yet. So once we
got about 2 more months until a phase 2, and then I'm effectively a D-rep. Watch yourself.
So once it's implemented, that becomes fully decentralized, and that's a big security in itself, because it is the access layer for the storage, right? So if you hack the blockchain, or if the blockchain goes down, you're not able to access kind of vital information that you need. So that's a big point right there, right? Access layer is the security, the uptime, making sure all the data is available at a certain time, and in a cost-effective manner, because the transaction fees are not as high.
Real quick, that being said, would you entrust technology like this on a blockchain that shuts down randomly? How would that affect your business model overall?
That would not look good, because let's say we're onboarding a healthcare institute, and they are in an important surgery, and they need to access to patient files, and they can't access at a certain
failure.
Point. It's not good. Yeah.
That's insane. Because I don't want to say who, but yeah, I see so much of this crap about some of these blockchains out there. Oh, they're going to get institutional adoption and the whole world's going to come clamoring it's supreme tech, but it can't stay up and it's got all these other problems. And I'm like, what real corporation would rely on that kind of solution for anything of value other than meme coins? There's a reason why that's its ecosystem, in my opinion. But anyway, I'm not going to get into it. I like that. So effectively, I mean, the security of Iagon is based pretty reliably on the fact that Cardano is as decentralized as it is. Is there anything else out there even comparable? From a back end technological perspective, is there anything out there that is comparative to Cardano's level of security because of its decentralization?
Well, the thing is that for our project, it's only Cardano. But for certain use cases, Bitcoin, I would say, is pretty secure.
But you
And
couldn't build Iagon on Bitcoin.
no, you can't. It's not for our use case, right? You can't build anything on top of it. It's more of a store of money value kind of thing. Other than that, I would say there are a few blockchains building to that degree. I think that there's Polkadot, Algorand, and also Ergo Chain. I think these guys
So
are
basically everything Charles likes is
it's I didn't know he liked I didn't know he liked
I don't know if he likes Polka. I'm pretty sure he likes Algorand. I've seen him make comments about Ergo and Algorand or whatever.
Okay. Yeah. So these kind of things, I think they're kind of Cardano centric, like in terms of they have the same kind of vision or same kind of goals. They haven't got to Cardano's point yet. And Ethereum, in my opinion, is built backwards.
I know. What do you think is going to happen to Ethereum this cycle? Like realistically, and I listen, man, if it wasn't for Ethereum, none of us would be here. But it's just like, I feel like, is it really going to just start fading? Like, are we going to start having Ethereum for nostalgia's sake? Is it going to become like a keepsake or something? Like, what do we think is going to happen with that?
I mean, how long in the future are we talking? I mean, short term, I think it's still going to be around at least, and they have a lot of L2s that are functioning on Ethereum. So I don't think it's going anywhere because they have a lot of users. They have real users. So I think that
Well, it's not full of wash traders and bots and make believe. What do you mean?
There might be bots and wash traders there as well, but it's not to that degree as certain chains, right? So
there's a difference between wash trading to get out of taxes and like just wash trading to pump up volume to make your blockchain look important. But I do neither. But I'm familiar. So I mean, it's interesting, man, because I like Ethereum, but it's just not really usable. I mean, especially in today's systems, it's just not really that usable.
Well, the beauty about it is we're on with the interruptibility that's coming out, now, and it's awesome that we don't have to shift our token model to any other chain. We can stay on Cardano and utilize other user bases that want to utilize Iagon, vice versa, right? So it's awesome.
How many chains do you think you would ultimately be interoperable with? Like, is there a goal in mind? Is there like we'd like to have this handful of chains for their user base? Is it user base specific where you have to say, yeah, we have to build out, elements of Iagon to facilitate users from Polkadot or whatever. And even if that were the case, it's still all primarily on Cardano regardless, right? It's like that's its primary hub. Everything else is just kind of like a spider leg, right?
Yeah, I mean, as long as we don't have any bridged assets and we keep the token economy on Cardano, I don't have an issue of expanding anywhere where the users are. So obviously, our first highlight before even this, before the news came out about interruptibility and how it's easy it is to use Cardano through other, like for example, Bitcoin wallet. We were contemplating just focusing on projects that have the same ethos as Cardano. So, decentralization, security, and things like that. So those are kind of ethos of Cardano is full decentralization. Ergo Chain is doing that, and we would actually went to Ergo Chain, and we still want to go to Ergo Chain first because I really like what they're doing over there as well. But this kind of interoperability allows us to focus on basically anyone that we want to adopt as a user base, right?
Got it.
Without leaving the security aspect, because if we didn't have that, we have to take into account security as being number one.
Yeah, like Cardano's basically like your dad, in the sense that, my dad can beat up your dad kind of thing. Yeah. So I get it. Dude, this has been really a really cool interview. I hope this takes. I hope everybody's still watching and paying attention to what's being said here, because I think it's really key. I definitely believe that this is going to be the market cycle where Cardano really starts showing people what it's been building and why it's been taking so long, because that's, I think, one of the big differences between Cardano. Yeah, it's been slow. I know. I get it. I hear it all the time. I feel it too. I see it. But the reality is it's never building backwards. And, you know, so many of these other blockchains that I see out there, yeah, they might be first to market with this or that, but then they have to change everything. They have to redefine it, redesign it, re-implement it. And then they got to start all over again, because they're just, I feel like Ethereum obviously is still doing that. And I see a lot of that happening in a lot of these other chains. And it's realistically, you know, there isn't any reason why all of us can't coexist and work together, because really we're all here supposedly here for the same reason, and that's to offset the controls that a lot of the, you know, the big institutions have over us. You know what I mean? But the greed in the space has been transforming, in my opinion, to a state where I'm just so greedy. I don't care who controls the future. I just want to benefit today. Right.
Yeah, exactly. And I
And
think
it
that's
really does make me sad.
yeah, it's not a good feeling. I think that you know, we used to be happy back in the Web 2 days when, you know, you had a small return on your investment. And now it's kind of just getting to an extraordinary level where people are just focused on, you know, you have obviously you have to make money at the end of the day. But it's gotten to a very greedy level, I think, in my opinion. And you have to think also like this: Cardano has only been around for what now, 9 years? It's not been that long, to be honest. Some Web2 companies, startups take you know, 5 years to even get off the ground. So 9 years
Just
is
to go
not.
public, in most cases, it could
Yeah,
take 5 years.
yeah, exactly. And it's 9 years is a very short time, and what they've accomplished so far is a lot. And I think that that will pay off for the people that are continue to build on Cardano, continue to believe on Cardano, and hopefully we'd like to believe we're one of them, right?
One last question, because we're already at over 50 minutes. This is one of the longest interviews I've done in quite some time. You're just so easy to talk to, man. You know, it's difficult to let someone like you go. So given AI and where AI is today, and in the ways, you know, like for me, I'm a non-programmer. I just build an app I can't wait to tell everyone about and have them go play with it. How do you see? So I am of the belief that we are in fact going to get CBDCs. I just feel like it's happening no matter what, you know, whether it's delayed because of who's in office or not for a few years, it's still happening. And I believe that there's a genuine CBDC infrastructure being established right under our noses right now, multi-country, across the world. And I also believe that because of the nature of CBDCs, AI are going to monitor it and control it. And I think that when I think about technology like that and the way we're moving into this kind of transhumanism, technocracy based kind of dystopian future where everything is like crazy, I, at the same time, honestly can see something like Cardano being an underlining layer for it, as well as Iagon. I'm sorry, but like I can see Iagon playing a role in some of that shit. Yeah. How many phone calls have you had from people that are trying to launch this kind of tech that say, hey, we need you to come into our smoke-filled dark office somewhere in an undisclosed location?
Actually, for AI, we haven't received too much interest yet because we don't have the compute side yet. So I think it'll come when we have GPU there. I agree with you that AI is kind of a tricky scenario, but at the same time, we're permissionless. You know, we want to be just like blockchain. It has to be permissionless. Otherwise, what are we doing, right? We can't control.
So even if it's running on your systems, you don't necessarily have to know.
Well, it's not to us specifically. It's up to the node operators, right? And we're providing the tooling for the node operators and the users to do with that as a plea. If they want to not serve to certain people, they're free to do so. But that's up to that's up to them.
So I can say no adult websites, no gambling is using my node.
So they can.
Interesting. I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah. So they're gonna have the ability to, you know, block, not host websites, maybe even not host websites from certain countries. So it's completely up to them. We at no point want to be control of that decision. And that's kind of how we're playing this, because we're a middleman providing the tooling for both sides, and they get to choose, they get to pick, and we match them with their best fit. That's it. You
It's like a dating service. That's cool.
Exactly. Exactly. Match made in heaven.
A match made in heaven. Or in an algorithm brought to you by Iagon. Dude, this is really cool. We're going to have to do this again. And maybe at the end of the year and just kind of do a follow up and see like where things are, how things have changed, how things are going. Cause this has actually been a really cool time. Sure. And yeah, man, like anytime you've got something you want to talk about, just let me know. If I'm free, we'll go on, we'll hit the record button and see what we got. Awesome. So yeah, make sure you guys check out Iagon at the very least, add it to your watch list. But I would definitely be checking it out if you're not familiar yet. Now, man, thanks so much for joining me. This is really cool. I'm very glad. I'm very glad I own a nice little handful of Iagon tokens as well. So after this, I might have to go get some more. Damn it. I thought I was done. It's never ending. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us. I am the Crypto Crow, and I will see you soon. Until next time, crow your coins.